Well, hello everybody, and a very warm welcome to my channel. And today I feel very honored and privileged to finally have Terry Cole here on the channel. And Terry, it only took us about 2 years to make this happen, so it was quite fast.
Yeah, I mean that's in the grand scheme of geologic time, it's a blip. It's just a blip. It's been super fast. So I appreciate you having me on very much.
Yeah, and you did a reissue of an album, but no, first of all, please introduce yourself for those who don't know
Sure.
you.
Sure. My name is Terry Cole. I am a co-owner and operator of Coal Mine Records out of Loveland, Ohio. I've been running this label for almost 20 years. And I operate it with my younger brother Bob. And we also run a brick and mortar record store called Plaid Room Records. So yeah.
Yeah. And you did a reissue of, in my humble opinion, legendary album. It's, I think, one of the rarest soul albums out there. If you want to have an original copy of this album nowadays, I think it's next to impossible. It was always kind of mysterious. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I mean, even in a place like Cincinnati where they come up more often than not, it's yeah, crazy rare.
And why do you think it became legendary?
Um, I mean, I don't know. I think it's like a lot of really cool soul records from that time. They were they were made in such a limited quantity the first time around, and they become like trying to find hen's teeth, like it's impossible. And so the the inconceivably rare nature of these records kind of like builds up their own status. I mean, like it's a super dope record. And I mean, the only reason we ever listened to it at the shop is because it was so expensive. um I mean, I don't want to get too far. I don't know if you have questions planned or anything, but I mean, that's how it started. Is a used copy came in the store, and we were like, "Why in the hell is this record $750? Like, why is this a $700 record?" And it didn't sell, and it was sat on our shelf for a few weeks, and we were like, "We should." It was sealed, and so we were like, "We should just open this. I want to see what it sounds like."
How many copies do you think have been pressed back then?
I think he said he did five. I think Steven said he did 500 or 1,000. I think 500 though. I think is the number that rings true.
And what was that moment when you sat in a record store and said, I'm giving it a listen"? Was this the first time you heard the name Barbara Howard, or was it you
Mhm.
already knew that name?
Yeah, it was the first time. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't there when my brother bought the record. And so I came in. I was still a teacher at this time, and so I came into the shop after I was done teaching, and this is on like a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and I saw it on the shelf for like $600 or something, and I was just like, "What is this? Like, what in the world? Where did this come from?" And he told me somebody came in, he bought it from him, um, and I was like, "That's crazy!" And it's sealed, and so then it sat there for a few weeks, and I'm like staring at it from behind the counter, just like, "What is this?" And yeah, so we decided on some day to crack it open, and it was super dope. And I think it was unlike a lot of private press stuff. It sounds expensive. Like it sounds like a lot of money went into the production of the record. It's not like just one mic and four people in a basement. It's like a proper recording and high-end studio and great musicians and arrangements. And yeah, that sent us down the rabbit hole of like, who is Stephen Reese, and why does this record exist, and what is going on? So yeah.
Yeah, so it took me actually 20 years to find an original copy.
Hmm.
And I've flown to Vegas to pick it up.
Yeah.
So the record back then wasn't that expensive. It was near mint, and it was like, I don't know, $250.
Uh-huh.
But the flight, because the guy said I'm not shipping it to Germany, so
Sure.
I said okay, I pick it up. And before that, a friend of mine who lived in Cincinnati went to a yard sale, and he bought a reel-to-reel machine with many tapes. And the guy who sold it to him said, it's from my grandfather. I have no clue what's on it, and I don't even know if it works. And he got home, and he had a reel-to-reel tape with 2 songs. And it was Light My Fire and For Once in My Life,
Oh,
sung by
dang.
her.
That was the
Yeah.
45. That was the 45.
So that was on a reel-to-reel tape, and he sent it to me back then when, you know, he converted it to MP3, and there were Yahoo groups, and he sent it to me, and I said, have you any idea who this is? Because we all had the same impression. It didn't sound cheap. It sounded like a proper production. Okay, sound-wise, it was not the best, but it sounded like a proper production. You had a nice arrangements, you had the orchestra and everything, and we were like, and that was way before you could look things up and having an app on your phone saying who's singing that. So, and we were like there for years trying to figure out who it was, because we thought it must have been a major label, because the difference between a private press from back then, you know, like you said, yeah, they were happy if they had one good mic and a nice reel-to-reel tape machine. Many of them was recorded in a garage or something, not in a studio or things like this. So that was something that really stuck to us. And it took me, like I said, 20 years. And I was so over the moon when I've heard that there's Reissue coming out, because people wanted that album so bad.
Yeah.
And
That's crazy though. So you have a quarter inch stereo?
I think it was mono. I think the guy who recorded it in mono, but it wasn't, because that was the next step. What we did once we've had access, thanks to this reissue, we compared it, and there was no unreleased version or different mix or anything. He must have recorded it somehow. And that was something quite unique, because everybody was trying to figure out, who is she? Maybe she was a backing vocalist from Aretha Franklin, maybe this or that, and it was impossible to find out. And so
that's crazy. That's wild. I wonder if that reel, like, I guess the reel could have, you know, somebody could have just had the 45 and converted the 45 to a reel, but it almost sounds like, I mean, quarter inch reel to reels is what the pressing plant would use to press. You know, the masters would be on the reels, and that's what they would use to generate the lacquers. And I wonder if that isn't like a master reel, like a master tape for the pressing plant. I wonder.
I will reach out to him if he still has it. I've learned that some Americans don't hold on to their past and throw things out fast.
You say they don't, or they do?
No, he's you know, I've talked to many people, production people from back in the day. There's one group who's called Hot, and it was done by Terry Woodford. And I asked him, do you still have the master tapes? And he said, oh, you know what? In the early 80s, I threw them all away because they started to rotten, and I wasn't really having the money to do so. And I threw them all away. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it is how things go, I guess. You know, technology changes, and people kind of view things as like, oh, well, I'll never need this again. You know, I can toss this out. Yeah,
Exactly.
hindsight.
So yeah, absolutely. And I was like, you throw them? Yeah, there were multi-track tapes from the group Hot did 3 albums, and there were all the multi-track tapes from all. There was some unreleased stuff, songs we didn't use, and I was like, no.
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
that's scary.
So that's what I've learned, and I also learned from back in the day. Sometimes the group got into a studio, and the album didn't get released, so tape was expensive, so they erased it and reused the tape.
Oh yeah, I do that. I do that all the time.
You see? So, and then there's only an acetate which survived and things like this, and then you can only work with that.
Yep.
But what was really interesting for me was that it took so long to get a reissue from this album? Why do you think nobody else, like Numero Group, they do stuff like this that didn't happen with that album?
Um, I think a couple reasons maybe. One, there were no tapes. The tapes were destroyed in a flood. And so there were no tapes that the family had. But also I think it's I mean, going back to the sound of the record, I think it's well, Numero doesn't do a ton of like just one-to-one type of reissues. They don't do a ton of just like this album now reissued. They do a lot. They're more, archival. They want to take a whole label or scene or something. So I think there wasn't enough like meat on the bone for them to sort of like sink their teeth into a bit. And it's a lot of covers. And so I think from their standpoint, they're sort of like, you know, it's going to be hard to license, a Doors track or a Stevie Wonder track or whoever it might be. So, um, but for us, especially back then, it's sort of like, we like doing one-to-one reissues and, it's a small-ish part of our business. And so we can afford to be kind of opportunistic with it. It doesn't have to be this like massive part of our business. It can just be like this a little fun side route for a minute and then um, so, but I think the fact that the tapes didn't exist and finding quality copies was also, would prove very difficult. And it just so happens this copy came to the shop and it was sealed. And that obviously doesn't mean it's perfect, as record collectors know, but pretty good. And yeah, we were able to use that copy and work with Jessica Thompson, who does a lot of numero restoration. And I mean, she made that master sound way better than it's ever sounded for sure. So it was pretty cool.
Absolutely. I compared it with the original copy I have, and she did an outstanding job.
I mean, it's wild how different it is. It sounds so much bigger, and yeah, it's so cool. The first time playing that for Steven, Barbara's husband, and for Alicia, her daughter, was like in the store was so cool because that's the first time Alicia had heard her mom's voice like that in years, and because they had like, I think they had like some kind of low quality CDs circulating within the family, just like, they make copies for the fam that they had, but like they didn't have anything nearly like this. So that was a really special moment to be able to, help share that with them, that memory of Barbara.
Yeah, I'm doing reissues myself, so I know how difficult it is to find the rights and clear all the legal stuff. How did you start? So you knew, okay, we have Steve Reese. How
Mhm.
does the detective work starts from there?
Yeah, I mean, so let's see, how did it start? It started with um somebody we've worked with for a long time. He now works for us. His name's Tom Luce. He's a record collector. He's been buying and dealing 45s. I mean, he used to come over to our house when we were children and buy stuff from our dad. Um and I hit him up and was like, "Hey man, what everything there is to know about Cincinnati soul music. Like, what's the deal with this?" And he was like, "Oh, he kind of gave me some background. He was like, "I think Steve is still alive." And he said, "And I know her daughter is a city council person in Cincinnati." And we're like, "Oh, well, this is great. Like we can reach out and potentially license it to them." So I went and had a meeting with Steve and was like, "Hey, we've got a super clean copy. We would love to reissue this. Like, it's going to be some work because we have to recreate the art and we have to like clean up a lot of the art and because we want it to be this like high quality product that we present." And yeah, Steve was Steve was more than I mean, he was it was relatively easy because he was like, "Yeah, this is great. Of course. Like, let's do it." But I just don't think he had ever really been approached. I think he had been approached maybe by the guys from Tramp in Germany, and they did was it Tramp or Jazzman? They put one of the tracks on a comp. They put "I Don't Want Your Love," the 45 A side, on a funk compilation. And so, but that, I think that was like maybe mid 2000s that they did that. But other than that, nobody had really expressed interest in reissuing the LP. But I think it's just kind of, like I said, it's kind of a silo. It's like, it's a one off. It's not really connected to a greater body of work necessarily. And, but then once we sat down and talked to Steve about, how the record came about, and I mean, it was just so romantic and like beautiful, and we were like, "Oh, how could we not do this? This is incredible." So,
Yes, because there's a beautiful love story. I mean, if you have a record and it sounds great and the singer's wonderful and you get that feeling that her voice is touching you, and next to that you have that wonderful love story
mhm.
surrounding this record. I mean, that's the best package. Maybe
Yeah,
you want to tell us a little bit about that love story.
yeah. So, I'll probably mess up some details here. So if Steve hears this, I'm sorry, Steve. But essentially, this is late '60s, Cincinnati, and Steve was um let's see, I think he was about to or was helping work on he was an activist. He was an activist, he was a community guy, community leader, and I believe he was working on Jesse Jackson's presidential campaign at the time, I believe. But he had this thing in Cincinnati, and oh my gosh, I'm gonna forget the name of it. I already did. It was a talent show, basically. It was a talent show in Cincinnati, and the whole point was the community to show their talent, their abilities. It was like a community pride thing. And Barbara Howard, who I think was like maybe just 18 or 19 at the time, she was set to be, on the bill. And I don't know if it was during the tryout or if it was like how far into this talent show it was, but her band didn't show up. And she was like, "Well, I'm gonna go ahead and sing anyway." And Steve was sort of like, "Well, I don't know. You don't have a band. Like, maybe we wait for the band." And she was like, "No, I'm gonna sing." And I guess she went out there and just like blew everybody away. And so Steven was like, "I'm gonna produce a record for you. Like, I'm gonna start a record label and I'm gonna produce a record for you." And so he started, trying to develop her, and he got her in some local like beer ads, Hootapole, which I believe there's video somewhere, but nobody's ever been able to find it or show it to me. It might have been destroyed in the flood. But there was apparently video and audio of them doing like a Hootapole ad, which in Cincinnati is like a famous cheap beer. Hootie Delight is like a very famous cheap like lager. And so he produced this record. He spared no expense. He hired the best musicians, best studio, killer arrangements, um, mostly covers. There's a few originals on there, but it's mostly covers. And the record did all right. I think she was on the Sammy Davis show. I believe she opened for Aretha when Aretha came through Cincinnati at some point. Um, so like, it did its thing, but like many records, it did its thing and then kind of that's it. Like where do you go from there? But through that process, they had begun you know, a love story. And essentially what it comes down to is that record was really him, wooing Barbara. And so they didn't make it in the record industry per se, but out of it they were married for I think 38 years, and had a beautiful life together. So it's like when the first time Steve told me that, I was like, Steve, there are a lot of cheaper ways to you could take her to dinner. You could take her to dinner several times. There's a lot cheaper ways to woo a woman, Steve. But I love that story, and I think it's just so beautiful. And yeah, I mean, it's like so much about it. I love like the entrepreneurial spirit. The idea of seeing potential and talent in someone and wanting to make something of it. It's amazing. And to be able to connect with them so many years later and to see them to be in the room while they're listening to it for the first time was so cool. Um, yeah, it was beautiful, very special.
When you learned the story, did it change how you approached the reissue?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think as record people, we're kind of like, records are objects. And it's really easy to not have any sort of real human connection. It's easy to lose it. It's easy to lose that sort of connection. And it's easy to look at a record and be like, "Oh yeah, that record's rare." But you don't think about like why it's rare, or what motivated the person to make that record in the first place, or any of that sort of more human level stuff. And it's very easy for it to get lost in the collectible record world, especially like in the 45 lane where there's no imagery. You just got a name and maybe a location, and that's it. So it's very easy to commodify it. And yeah, hearing that from them was like, oh my gosh, like I wanted to do this before, but now I'm like over the moon. And like I cannot wait for people to hear this, because to me that is like the record is dope, but the story is even better. I think like the record's dope, the story puts it over the top.
Absolutely. That I think that's a huge part why it became so legendary,
Hmm.
because the combination of the beautiful story and the fact that the record is so great. I mean, she was so young and she sounds so mature and so self-aware how she uses the vocals and her phrasing in the songs. Like she has been like a 20-year stage career behind her,
Hmm.
and I was so impressed with that. When I had more details about the record, I was like, wow, she was so young. And the whole concept fits so perfectly together that I like I said, I adored this record. I'm constantly talking about this record, how good it is, and especially the reissue, because what I hate about reissues nowadays, they're super expensive, and then you get a flimsy cover,
Mm.
like this
Hmm.
super thin paper. And here I have this very thick cardboard. And also how you did the replica of the cover is so outstanding. It's brilliant done. and
Oh,
and
thank you.
it's not easy to do that if you only have scans to work with.
Yeah, it was not easy. I did all that, and it was pretty hard.
Yeah, because the font is a huge problem,
Oh
you
yeah,
know
so many
cleaning up.
problems. That's another thing. Besides the sound of the record, the art it's pretty cool design. Like it's not like it's a super nice photo. Like that front cover is pretty cool. Yeah, it's a classic photo. And yeah, I mean, that speaks to the whole, like, Steve was really going for it. Like, they were going for it. They were like, "Let's make this a thing." And, yeah, it's cool. I'm super proud of that whole thing. I will never forget working on that in the back of the shop, just, like, staring at these scans and overlaid against, what I was trying to recreate, trying to make it look exactly the same.
Yeah. Also with the black, you have to figure out, is this the correct black? Does it
Oh
really
god.
fit? And the font is always a huge problem. And but you did a brilliant job, because I think you used the original font and you pasted on the cleaned up version.
I did, yep.
And yeah, and it's absolutely brilliant. I can't praise it enough. And I
Oh, thank
wish you would have had a career.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wish she would have had a career, but that's the best we can do is honor her memory with her record being available for 24.99 at most stores, and not $600.
In Germany, it's a little bit more expensive
Sure.
because of getting the records here
Yeah,
and
yep.
paying the taxes, and the tariffs now got a lot of fun. Uh, yeah. But you've mentioned that the master tapes were destroyed on a flood. Do you have more details about that?
I don't have any more details other than when I first sat down and met with Steve and Alicia, that was my first question was like, "Hey, we have this, you know, we have this really clean copy and we're happy to use it as the source, but if you guys have tapes, that would be ideal." And they had retrieved all the tapes from the pressing plant at some point in the 90s, I believe, or maybe the early 2000s, and then they were destroyed at their house in a flood. And so we checked with the pressing plant too, who we later bought, ironically, but they didn't have. There's no tapes there, so it's a bummer.
So the pressing plant had the tapes from 1970 till up to the 90s?
Oh yeah, well, a lot of these places. I mean, there's a pressing plant. There was a pressing plant in Cincinnati called QCA, Quality Record or Queen City Record Pressing, and they would get a copy sent to the pressing plant to use to cut the lacquers, and if the label or artist didn't request the tape to be sent back, then the tape would just sit there. Because technically, the pressing plant couldn't sell, like, it wasn't theirs, but so they just sat there. And so we bought the entire tape library about 3
Wow.
years ago. It was like it's about 15,000 master tapes from like 1962 to 1985. And it's not everything because a lot of people were like, "Oh yes, please send me my tapes back." Um, but it's a lot of really rare Midwest and Ohio stuff, and we haven't even begun to look at it. They're just sitting on pallets right now.
You're still hiring?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably gonna be somebody's full-time job. It's just like
Absolutely.
starting to go through the tapes. And I know Rob and Ken from Numero Group are gonna be down here in 3 weeks. I'm sure they're gonna be snooping around the warehouse. They're like hound dogs. They'll just be like looking for those tapes, seeing what's on there. Because we did find a few master tapes that Numero owns the rights to, which is kind of cool because it's like, oh, you guys don't have these tapes. Here, take the. I mean, you own the music, so here's a much better version of what you guys have. Because sometimes I think they have to pull from either an LP or a 45, and so obviously getting it from the master tape is a much better quality source.
Did Steve mention any unreleased material? It might have been destroyed on the flood as well, or
No,
demos,
other than
acetates.
the Hootapole recording that they did, he didn't mention anything else. And I Don't Want Your Love is so funny because I'm like, man, this is like the banger, Steve. And he was like, oh, that was a throwaway track. He's like, that was just a throwaway track. I'm like, well, it's maybe the best original on here, Steve. And he's like, oh, that was just a throwaway.
Wow.
But I mean, that's the only song I knew. I only knew that song from the 45. And yeah, I mean, that's the track. That's the only thing I knew of Barbara Howard before that.
Wow. So I think it's a huge risk to do a needle drop marketing wise, because if you're talking to audiophile people and like, oh, a needle drop and that's not the best quality, and I think that comes from needle drops which were released in the 90s. I mean, they were horrible, no
Mm,
question about it, and you had counterfeits and bootlegs, and I think the technology wasn't as far as it is today, because your record proves the opposite. It sounds
right.
better than the original.
Yeah.
So was there a thinking of you, oh, that might be a problem, that people not buying the record because it's a needle drop, and you were transparent with it, which I found great.
Um, I was never too concerned. Like the once I heard Jessica's masters, I was like, oh my gosh, people are gonna want to hear this version of it. Like they're gonna want to hear the clarity and the fullness of this master. So, and I think to a lot of people, I would say most people that bought that record probably were not aware of anything about Barbara Howard anyway. So yeah, I was never too. I don't worry too much about anything, I guess, for the most part. I just sort of trust my gut and keep it moving. So,
Um, how long did it take to get the remastered, and how much time did she need to do that?
um, she usually turns stuff around in maybe a few weeks, usually. So what we did is we mailed her the record, and sent it, which was very scary because it was like, oh shit, what if we lose this? What if USPS loses this? So we definitely mailed it like high priority and overnighted it. And yeah, then once she had a digital rip and she could start doing the restoration work and everything that she knows how to do, and then getting the original copy back felt good because we were like, okay, here it is. We got it back. I think we just gave the original to the family. I think we just
Oh,
gave to Steve
beautiful,
and Alicia. Um,
beautiful.
but yeah, we could not believe it when we heard that her master. It was just like, I mean, I think it just speaks to so much about recording technology and how far it's come in the last 10 to 20 years. And because I mean, that master is just not even close to, which in some cases can be bad because some people are like, oh, this is different. If you're so familiar with something, if you're uberly familiar and then you hear it differently, you're like, whoa, what is this? I don't like it. But I feel like this thing there is so little familiarity that most people probably came into it with an open mind and just like, oh yeah, I'm buying this new record from Coal Mine. And I hope I like
Yeah.
it. I hope it's cool.
Yeah, because you didn't have the opportunity to listen to an original. I just checked Discogs today, and there are 31 known versions of that album, of the original in existence to
What?
Discogs. So
I bet I'm gonna go ahead and call bullshit on all these different variations on Discogs, like old versions.
no, like the original versions. So people say half 31, and people
Oh,
want like I think 400.
got it. 31. Okay, I got you. I got you. Yeah, yeah.
So that's
Um,
that's a very few amount worldwide
yep.
to have the opportunity to listen to that. And
Yeah.
I think I think it's very important to keep the authenticity to the original and stay, because nowadays with AI you can make a multi-track version out of a song, and you can do a new mixing and everything, and I think that's very important. And she absolutely nailed that because she kept true to the original, but also clean it up.
Yeah. Yeah, because you want to hear what's happening. You want to hear what's actually going on the record. Man, I forgot we did cassettes of this.
Yes, I have the cassette as well.
Damn, I don't know if I have a copy of the cassette. Oh hell, I really
Yeah,
like this. I really like the cassette look a lot. Damn, I
yeah,
forgot.
you did the cassette too.
I gotta look in the warehouse and see if we got a copy of the cassette.
It was beautiful. It was also in pink, the case of the
Yeah,
cassette.
I'm looking at a picture of it on Discogs, and I'm like, damn, that must have been right when we started doing cassettes. Because I don't think we had been doing them for that long. Damn, that's cool. Man, I love that album cover, and the mic she's holding is my favorite mic of all time.
I think Elvis Presley used the same kind of mic in 1970 when he did Vegas. I
Oh,
think it's
really?
the same mic. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like an EV 635A, I think.
That
I think
that
it
might be the case, but
I think it's this mic right here.
yeah, that's it. That's the mic.
Yeah.
I think that's the mic.
Yep. It's my favorite. It's the best. It's the best mic. Best mic ever. My favorite. They quit making it last. They've been making this mic. Electro Voice had been making this microphone brand new for like $120 for like the last 60 years or something, and they
Wow.
quit making it early last year.
Are you
Um,
kidding me?
yeah, it's wild. I love this. This is like the mic that you would see people like, reporters. They're like, because it's dynamic, but it's omnidirectional, so like it picks up a lot of stuff off of it. It's the best, and they're going to be expensive one day because they quit making them. Wow, so sad.
Did Steve had any recollection of when the pictures were taken from the cover?
I mean, no, he's once they finished the record, I just remember him saying, they finished the record, they had a photo shoot. Man, he didn't remember the photog or the he couldn't remember the studio that they had the photos taken in. But like they don't have hardly any other, like there's hardly any other photos from that era of her that they had as a family. So except for that back cover photo.
Which is also very beautiful.
It is, yeah.
Do you have a favorite song on the record?
I mean, I think my favorite song of hers is I Don't Want Your Love on the 45. But I think my favorite song on the record is Oh Me Oh My.
Oh yeah, that's mine too. Oh me, oh
Yeah,
my, I'm a fool.
it's so good. Oh yeah, that's a killer version of that tune. So yeah, it's a beautiful record. We're really proud to be involved with it, and um, yeah, it's special. It's fun.
When you mentioned it already, she did a lot of covers on the album, and "Light My Fire" is also a fantastic version. I
Hmm.
mean, it's absolutely. Did you have to clear up the rights for "Light My Fire"? Did you have to clear the individual rights for that song, or was it just okay with Steve to make a contract?
So Steve makes the contract for the master for the recording side of it, and then the tunes that are originals, I can obviously clear with him. But there's most of the album is covers, and so we have to do is every time we press it, we have to pay 12.4 cents per cover per copy. So it adds around like a dollar or so onto the cost of a dollar something onto the cost of making it. But you don't have to clear when you're covering someone's song. You don't have to get permission. You just have to pay the license fee, which is pre-negotiated. It's 12.4 cents per copy per cover. But if you were to sample somebody, that's a different thing. If you sample somebody, that's using somebody else's recording, and so you do have to obviously get permission and negotiate the rate and the fee and all that stuff. But covering someone is much easier than that.
Mm. Was it successful, your reissue?
I think so. Let me look at the accounting. No, I
I
think
think so too.
regardless of the accounting, well, I mean, I don't think I needed to hear or see anything other than the first time Steven and Alicia heard it. Like that was, if that's all that happened, it's a win. Like that moment in and of itself was just like, oh, this is absolutely a success and so worth it. Um and beyond that, thousands and thousands of people that know that this record exists now and then get to enjoy the music. So yeah, I can't think of very many records that I've ever put out that I would not consider a success, but I'm also kind of an optimist, so I'm probably, I'll see the silver linings of a lot of things.
That's great because in that business, especially if you're doing reissues, you absolutely need that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because yeah, financially things are not always wins, but that's okay. Like you live and learn, and we've been able to license this for a handful of opportunities. ironically, Alicia Reese, Barbara and Steve's daughter, she operates or helps administer, operate, run this thing called the Black Music Hall of Fame in Cincinnati, and it kind of goes through like a recorded history of soul and R&B music that's come out of Cincinnati historically. And there's like a little thing to Barbara there, and it's like an interactive, kind of like a museum type of thing. And like there's information about her, and you can press a button and hear some of the music and see the records and stuff like that. It's really cool. And that was one of the first. I remember when that request came through, and it was like it's like Hamilton County, Cincinnati, making a Barbara Howard request, and I was like, what is this request? I was like, oh, it's a sync. It's a licensing. They're asking to use it in the Hall of Fame. And I was like, oh, it's amazing. So yeah, it was super, super fun putting this record out. And I think, we still sell tons of copies of it. And every year more and more people get hip to it and discover it. And I think that's the whole point, that it is able to be discovered. It's in a spot where it can be discovered, and it's not this thing that only a few people know about or something like that.
Exactly, and I think that's the great point about this, and also this project, like a lost, mysterious, legendary album. Now you can buy it in a great quality. It sounds better than the original, and it's in print. It's available. And I think it's a great thing for her legacy. And I think she never imagined that in 2026 people are talking about her album, and people have the opportunity to buy that album. And I think for her family, that must have been such a wonderful thing, that their mother and wife is being cherished like this by thousands of people who really enjoy that album. I'm getting like, I have the reissue in my shop, and I get like 2 or 3 mails each week for people thanking me that I recommended that album, that it was the highlight of the year for them, buying that album, that they love the album. And I think that makes me so proud for her and you guys. That's why I was so eager to make this interview with you, to introduce you to the people, or the people to you who made this record, and what it really means. And to a lot of people, it means a lot. And there was someone who was very sick, and he said, this album helped me through a hard time of my life.
Oh man, that's the best. That's why, I mean,
And
it
yeah,
is that is the that is the power of that record stores and individual curators that will never go away, because no matter how good the algorithm is and whatever it is, like the humanity behind curating something or recommending something for someone or introducing them to something cool, it's just so much more fun and human. And even if the algorithm is accurate, it's not the same.
no,
Even if I like every single thing it serves up to me, I'm like, oh yeah, sure. But like, I think not to get too ahead of myself, but I think we're going to enter an era between AI music and art and a smarter and smarter algorithm, that I think humanity is going to crave, and already is craving, more careful curation. Instead of just going, yeah, whatever, recommend me, whatever. I think people are already starting to crave human to human interaction. And you see it with record stores. That's why record stores are thriving. Shops are thriving in a way that they haven't in decades. And it's like, it's not because it's convenient or inexpensive. It's not either of those things, but it is so much more human. And there's something so much more real about having a recommendation from someone and then being like, hey, thanks so much, like that was awesome, what else do you got, like what else can you recommend? Like, it's the best. That's why record stores exist.
yeah, and that, like I said, it's great, and I very much enjoy that, and I can't wait for another album like this coming out from you guys. Is there something in the making?
I don't think we have. I don't think we have any. We don't have anything. We have 45s. We don't have any LPs on the dock right now. But I know we will because we've got 15,000 tapes that are just sitting in our warehouse waiting to be gone through. And I know there's so many records in there that we're going to want to help get out. And same thing, like get their story out. Um, but yeah, I think it's just going to take time. But nothing on the. Let me check real quick though. I think I don't. Let me look at my master. Yeah, the Fred Davis one was the last one we put out. Um, and I don't have any more LPs in the books. We have like 3 or 4 more 45s locked down, and they're ready. We just did an Ebo Taylor one, and I think we're gonna do a couple more soul funk ones. But yeah, then I think 2027 we're gonna hire somebody, and they're just gonna start working their way through the tapes and sitting there putting tapes on day after day.
Yeah,
So
not everything will be as precious as Barbara Howard,
no, no, no.
but
There'll probably
maybe
be probably be a lot of
yeah.
duds in there, but a lot of choirs, a lot of choirs doing some church music, and that's fine. But there'll be some good stuff in there, I'm sure.
Yeah, gospel is also great. I can highly recommend it. There's some great gospel tunes out there.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, like Numero's, it's a great example. The Pastor T.L. Barrett records, like
Oh yeah.
those records went from relative obscurity to foundational on so many hip hop records over the last 10 years. I mean, like,
Yeah. Like a ship, been sampled so many
yeah,
times.
it's so crazy. I mean, and to think that that was just in obscurity, until it wasn't. And yeah, it's crazy. I hope we find some cool stuff. I'm sure we will. Just a matter of time.
I can't wait for it. And also, Terry, thank you so much for your time. It was a
Oh
pleasure.
yeah. I appreciate you having me on, and appreciate the support very much. And yeah, giving me the opportunity to talk about this wonderful record.